Guys, we're friends, right? Well, the sign of a true friend is when they discover something good, they share it with you. And that's what I'm gonna do today. This is Loretta's British ginger tea. It is amazing. It's got 100% ginger, cinnamon, elderberry, and manuka honey. Gotta admit, don't know what manuka honey is, not even sure what it does for you, but it just sounds healthy, so I need some. This tea is fantastic for boosting your immune system, helps you feel good, and you'll live out loud like our beautiful British friend Loretta. Please hit her up on Instagram, order some of this tea, and she is at farmers markets and pop-up shops everywhere. You gotta get some of this stuff. Not only is it good for you, but it tastes great. Loretta's British ginger tea. I got some, you need it too. Go and order now.
Hi, this is Melba Moore, and you're watching Rude Rangers TV.
You're listening to Rudy Radio, powered by Rude Rangers Entertainment. I'm Terra Renee from African American Women in Cinema Organization, and this is Talk with Terra, a show that highlights fantastic filmmakers, artists, and entertainers from all walks of life. We're committed to introducing you to individuals, organizations, and projects of which you're not necessarily aware, and we do this with the intention of uplifting, empowering, and enlightening you. So if you can, please share this episode on all of your social media platforms. We love it if you text your friends and ask them to tune in. Well, I am so pleased to have, I want to call her an alumni of sorts. She came by the way of the African American Women in Cinema Organization. And I'm just so just pleased at how she progressed along. And you're going to hear from this talented filmmaker today as we talk about her journey and also some of the jewels that she will share with you, audience. So listen up as you have been doing, and thank you so much for supporting us. So, ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Osaretin. How are you?
Good, I'm fine. Thank you so much for having me. Like I was mentioning earlier, it's really special to be one-on-one with you because 8 years ago you were like my second film festival experience. Like I was 22 and I brought my mother all the way to Harlem. I think that's when you guys had it.
Yeah.
And it was such a special moment, and to be one-on-one on you 8 years later, and like so much things have happened. It's a really cool experience.
Oh, well, that's wonderful. And I'm so happy to have you. So I'm really excited to get into this. Can you please share with us, the audience, your filmmaking journey, meaning what drew you into filmmaking?
Yeah, so I was just a teenage girl when I fell in love with it. I got bit by the film bug as a teenager. And before that, I had always been a natural writer. I just happened to come across a magazine ad for the New York Filmmakers Academy, which is a pretty reputed like film school. I know that they have like locations all over the world, New York and LA. Mm-hmm. And it just clicked. Like I got bitten so hard by the film bug, and it's just been like at that moment, and it's just never have letting go. So it's been like half my life already. It's been a lifetime mm-hmm. commitment to the art of filmmaking. Is really the only thing I really do artistically. And so I've done 3 short films, and I have a feature under my belt right now. I wrapped my first feature film like last year. Mm-hmm. So last year is when it premiered on Tubi, and it did really well on Tubi.
Wow, congratulations.
Yeah,
that's great.
Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah, thank you so much. And
Well,
so,
uh-huh.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, so currently I'm just trying to bring it back to Tubi. So right now we have a hiatus with the film, and right now I'm just trying to bring it back to Tubi. Hopefully I can announce that by the end of the year.
That would be awesome. Let us know. We'll promote it because we're so proud of what what you are doing and continue to do. And it's so important. Now, I'm already impressed with you, but to hear the fact that you shot your feature film last year when we were seriously battling COVID. I mean, we're not out the woods yet. How was that experience? And kudos to you for weathering that.
Yeah.
And to come out with the product. So please share. How did you do that?
So actually, I wrapped shooting 6 months before COVID happened. So I finished post-production at some point in 2020. And so then it premiered at Peachtree Village International Film Festival, which is a pretty good film festival in Atlanta. So that was 2020. And so, luckily I wrapped before COVID because COVID was just incredibly devastating to the entire world. Like every sector got slammed by COVID, and I don't think I could have done it. It just would have been devastating to me, and I just don't think that I would have been able to pull through with everything being shut down and people the psychological impact that it had on people just not being able to do productions. It would have been such a blow to me, and I just feel so grateful that I actually finished about 6 months before COVID happened. I'm so grateful.
Wow. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that was a blessing. Yeah. Wow. Well, tell us about your feature film. What is the title, and how did you come into creating that story?
So my feature is titled Strip, and I wrote it about 8 years ago. It was my first feature length production. I actually co-wrote it with 2 other writers, and it's really about the extreme lengths that a daughter goes to save her father. This is a woman that had innocent intentions and falls into the erotic dance scene with very innocent intentions, just wanting to help her dad, but that ends up entangled with dark consequences, falls into a very dark domino effect. So that is the core of the story, and I was definitely inspired by the close bond that I have with my father. And to this day, I'm still very, very close to my dad. I definitely have to, he has a lot of kids. I feel like I definitely have to be the closest to him. We're just so close together. And it's just so interesting to see how my own relationship with my dad has evolved since when I started writing the script. I think I've had some bumps in my relationship with my dad. Because when I first wrote it, then shortly after I got connected with my first boyfriend ever. That was 8 years ago, and then it kind of strained my relationship with my dad because he wasn't really into him, and then I've hit some rough patches with my dad, and right now we're very close right now. But it's just interesting to reflect how my own relationship changed with him in the past 8 years.
Wow, that's amazing. What I'm enjoying in listening to you speak. It is just so pleasant to hear how you're able to be very descriptive in your narrative in describing, your experiences. I find sometimes in talking with some talent that they sense it, they feel it, but they can't really articulate it in a way, and you're gifted at that. So
oh my God, thank you so much. Yeah, I appreciate it. I think I think I have a way of expression in writing, and I haven't written any new material in the past 8 years, but I think I still have it. So every now and then, I might pen something in the journal, and it'll just flow. I just think it's just a gift that I have, and I've definitely feel really blessed with it. That
is great. Well, kudos to you again. Yes, it's a great gift. Great gift. Can you tell us about your short films? What are those titles, and what was that process like shooting those films as well?
Yeah, so I have 3 short films that I've done. So one is just a casual project that I did with a friend in Vermont. So that's a short that I never released. But I have yeah, the first short film that I did is titled Infatuation. So this was a really long time ago. This was like, I think, actually 10 years ago. So I started professionally at 20. And so I got my start in upstate New York, in Albany, the capital of Albany. And I connected with Upstate Independence, which is a major group for the film industry folks in upstate New York. So they really gave me my start. So my first short film was through there. And so that screened at New York Anthology Archives, also known as New Filmmakers, and also New York Filmmakers Quarterly. So then my second short film, which actually screened at your series, I also got a deal with Shorts International, which is pretty big for shorts. Are you familiar with Shorts International?
They do sound familiar. Congratulations on that.
Yeah, so they're a pretty big distributor, just like for short films. So like the short that I screened at your series 8 years ago also picked up a deal with them, which is really exciting. So my films are very dark. Like there's definitely like moody and dark themes throughout everything, just because like that's like my own persona. So my own persona will come out like in my films, because like when I'm doing a work, I'm doing it for therapy, just like so many other artists. And it's so cool like listening to other artists from in other forms talk about how they go to their art for therapy. And like I do the same. And I reach out to films to be able to release or get some relief for like the darkness and like the moodiness, isolation and whatever that I feel. So definitely all of my films are just like very dark, just very dark and moody. And so Goodbye Apathy, which was the short that screened with you 8 years ago, that was about a girl that kills her boyfriend in an impulsive moment. Like it's just about it just reveals what led to that impulsive moment. So it's just a buildup of angst and emotion and anger that leads up to this like very impulsive moment where she kills her boyfriend. And so I do like to explore dark themes like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And typically, how long does it take you to write a screenplay?
So it's been a while. I think I'm definitely going to be sticking with feature films, or feature productions. I got my start doing short films, and doing shorts is a quicker process, and I was able to just write it myself. This feature film, it took me I think I took 2 years writing it, and I was writing it on and off, and I had to collaborate with other writers because I just couldn't create an intact, solid script by myself. It was just way over my head to just do that on my own. And like even right now, I'm not really sure if I could just do a feature script by myself, because it's pretty complex.
Okay.
I guess, how long it takes, I think it kind of depends on the financing and the support. I didn't have support, so my film took me a few years.
Okay, I get it. Well, we're going to hear more, and we'll be right back after these messages. You're listening to Talk with Terra, presented by African American Woman in Cinema, right here on Rudy Radio.
Okay.
Hey everyone, I'm Dr. Bob Lee from 107.5 WBLS and the Make the Grade Foundation for Education. You're listening to Rudy Radio.
we're having a conversation with African American filmmakers. Join the African American Women in Cinema Filmmaker series at the Clubhouse, presented by I Am the Color of Beautiful Global, every Monday night, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. AAWIC on Clubhouse. Join us on the Clubhouse app for this inspiring conversation. Hosted by Karen Moore, founder of I Am the Color of Beautiful Global. Join us this Monday at 6 p.m. on the Clubhouse app for African American Women in Cinema's Filmmaker series.
Hi, I'm Mario Confetti, international Formula One driver. I sped to get to Long Island Telecom before they closed. I need to get one of these fantastic deals that Long Island Telecom has, because you can't beat the price anywhere else. Oh, get away from that car! What are you doing? Freaking kids playing with the car out there. Anyway, I'm glad I got here. Wait, what do you mean you're closing? I gotta come back tomorrow? What's your number? 631-833-9679? Oh, stop writing me a ticket.
Hey, this is Jewel Taker from the Jewel Taker Show on Impact Network. Also, you can watch me and my family on The Tankers on Prime Amazon, or watch me and my sister's Chatter Talk show on Fox. So me and my girls, Dr. Dee Freeman, Monique Eilert Mosley, Real Talk Kim, and Holly Carter, and you're watching Rudy Radio.
Welcome back to Talk with Terra. I am Terra Renee from African American Woman in Cinema, and today we are talking with the fab filmmaker. You know, I tell you, I am just so honored, really, to be honest with you, to be talking with you and your journey. It's rich. It's coming from such a good, strong, pure place, and I love that. I love the fact that you were able to stay independent, because I think that brings on its own protection, if you will. I remember one time I went to a film festival, and there was a panel, and it consists of someone who used to work with Alfred Hitchcock. Are you familiar with Alfred Hitchcock?
Yeah, I definitely know him as a legend, you know, from way back in the day, you know, legendary director, old Hollywood.
Yes. Yeah. So a question was the Q&A at the end of the panel, and this young lady got up and she was distraught because she said that she had submitted her work to a major outlet, and they accepted it and put her name on it. And she said when she saw it, it was like a horrific music video, not even a film. She didn't even consider it being a film. And so she was trying to figure out the best way to remove her name and remove herself away from the project. And you know, Esoterian, a lot of folks, they don't realize that side of it. You know, a lot of the time they are fighting to get on a major platform because they look at the big dollars, and that's true. You know, who wouldn't want a good payday? But you do end up losing a lot of control. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, okay. So the debate on whether to try to go more mainstream or just like stay independent.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I feel like there's pros and cons. So the pros of being independent is being able to control your art and you're the boss. But sometimes like your exposure might be reduced unless you're like super connected, and you probably won't have as much financial backing as if like you decided to go mainstream. And so yeah, going mainstream, you'll get the exposure and probably like the pay is very attractive, but you could end up like selling your soul in a sense, whereas like you have no control like over your art, or like they can alter it and manipulate it. And you know, I definitely sympathize for how she felt. Like it's a horrible feeling like watching your product be altered and manipulated. I would feel horrible. I probably would have tried to do the same thing, try to get my name removed. I wouldn't be comfortable being associated with something that's like manipulated and like altered. So it's good if you know, both worlds can be blended.
Yeah, it's true.
It's
true.
Just pick and choose.
Yeah, I agree. And you know, that's been like the I don't want to use the term game, but that's been the challenge, to try to finesse that aspect of it. So some folks, they have come up with the idea, well, here are some pieces that I can absolutely get rid of that can pay me the funding. Then I could take that particular finance and fund what I really want to do and put my name on it. You think that's a good strategy forward?
So for picking and choosing, like, and trying to get financing?
Well, just in terms of what we were just talking about, you know, how the young lady was so distressed with her name being on that project. And unfortunately, that was the first entree to the film world. And so that really added on to that level of devastation.
Yeah.
And so what I've heard in some conversations from talent, they would typically write maybe about 4 or 5 screenplays and maybe part with 2 or 3 that they really can part with, meaning that, I mean, totally disconnect. Whatever happens, it just happens.
Okay.
You know, and they get the funding from it. and then they do what they, you know, really want to do with the meaning and the richness of the story. I mean, what are your thoughts on that particular strategy?
So I'm not sure. I've never have done that. Like I'm the type of person that once, like I've always have shot every script that I've written. So it seems like other people, or the people that you're mentioning, they write several scripts at the same time, and then they pick and choose like the ones that they want to disconnect from and just like pitch, you know, to get financing. I've never have done it. I've been thinking about like writing multiple scripts in the future rather than just doing it one by one, which I've done in the past, just because like I've spent 8 years like not writing anything new. So like part of me just wants to like speed it up and just get a bunch out of my system instead of like getting married to each. Yeah. I think most people do. Most people just write a bunch of screenplays and it sits on the shelf for the long time. I've never been that way, but I would like to change up my approach to script writing, just because it's been 8 years and with no material, no new. Just I've been so dedicated to this feature, which took forever. It was like 6 years.
Wow.
Like, yeah, it was such a long time to just because there was a lot of false starts. And production was 2 years because I was working and shooting at the same time. That's unusual. Most features would take like 6 months or less. Like I've been hearing people do features in 11 days, which is shocking to me, but I guess it's, you know, possible. Like I guess that's trendy right now, is to just do features in 11 days. I had somebody ask me to direct their film, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we want it done in 11 days." And I was like, "Oh my God, really? Wow." I was shocked.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty, because people don't understand the intensified labor that goes on behind the scenes in putting a film together. They see the finished product, but they really I'm talking about the folks who have no clue.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's just true. I think film is definitely the most expensive art form there. I feel like there's definitely a reason why film productions are like multi-million dollar productions. There's no photo shoots or like, or a music production that's like, well, I guess music productions could be in the multi-millions, but yeah, films are definitely up there when it comes to expense. Yeah, it's really involved of like locations and crews, actors. There's so many puzzles to a film production. So for sure, it's very laborsome.
Yes.
And particularly if it's a low budget indie like mine was. So yeah, it's even more strenuous.
You're right. It is. And I definitely want to talk about that a little bit more as well. You use a term that I really like, and we can elaborate more on false starts. False starts.
Yeah, I feel like, yeah. Oh yeah, that's this whole topic by itself. I'm pretty sure like a lot of artists can relate false starts. Yeah, I had a lot of false starts. Yeah. So I had a lot of false starts with so getting it started. I've like lack of financing. So I mean, I self-finance, and I was waitressing actually. This is a film that was made of like a lot of waitress money, so that's why I was having false starts, because I simply had not like saved enough, or like I would. Like I would psych myself out. It's like, oh my God, it's not enough money. But it's like, oh my God, I really just have to do this, get this out of my system, and try to just get to the next level. And I'm kind of at the next level. Like this film has definitely given me an opportunity that I didn't have like prior to making the feature. And I'm just extremely grateful by the success that it did have on Tubi. And is a launching pad for me, and I'm very excited. So that's and then false starts as in like talent would drop out and I would have to start over. The lead role was very provocative, and it was turned down like by 10 actresses. Like I saw 3 lead actresses drop out until finally an actress from Atlanta took it on. So that was another false start. Like having to start from zero, like when talent would drop out. Yeah.
That's a very important one, because I got a phone call almost in the middle of the night by a director who was just not shattered, but almost coming to pieces by the seams. And I want to definitely get more into this story. But we'll be right back after these messages. You'll listen to Talk with Terra, presented by African American Woman in Cinema, right here on Rudy Radio.
Hey everyone, I'm Dr. Bob Lee from 107.5 WBLS and the Make the Grade Foundation for Education. You're listening to Rudy Radio.
Welcome back to Talk with Terra. I am Terra Renee from African American Woman in Cinema, and we have the wonderful and lovely and very articulate Osaretin, who is joining me today, filmmaker. Very happy to have her joining us today, and she is certainly giving us the insight, something tangible that we could apply in our journey. But before we went on break, she was sharing with us the term false start. And one of the stories in which she shed light on was a talent who had initially agreed and then dropped out. And before we cut to break, I started to share a story, and I'm going to now get into it. And the call that I got from a director who was unraveling at the seams emotionally, because a talent that they secured, who had shot about 50% of the film, and it was they kind of rearranged his hair. Actually, they had it braided a certain way. And so the next day he was supposed to finish the rest of his starring role. And then they were moving on to other parts of the film. Well, they couldn't get him on the phone. And finally, after numerous calls, the actor representative called the director back and basically stated that he was not coming back on the set because the way he wore his hair was totally uncomfortable for him. Now, he said this after shooting 50% of the film and got paid.
Wow.
So
that's terrible.
Yeah, I mean, and basically how it ended up was they offered a wig. You know, they were willing to get a wig that he could just put on to complete his role, and then he could take it off. He didn't want to wear a wig. So they had to be very creative in how they dealt with that character to finish the film. Mm-hmm. I mean, Osaretin, any crazy stories of that nature that you had to deal with?
Yeah, I mean, I had crazy story of so well, actually nothing to that extreme. That's actually very extreme. And I feel like I would be very devastated because I didn't have a casting director that I was actually working with. I casted everything by myself. Wow. So I did have people drop out, but not like they shot 50% and then they wanted to drop out. They dropped out in the beginning. And so it was not that complicated to replace them. So crazy story that I had is well, so there's a lot of nudity and sexual themes in the lead characters. So I would just give people like the scene where they would have to strip and that would filter people out, and I would just watch one actors drop after the other, one by one. They would all drop out, and I was just like in this circle, and I was driving myself crazy mentally. I would have been casting for 10 years just like knowing myself. I would be casting for this lead role for 10 years nonstop, just because like once I commit to something, I can never give up. And like I'm so grateful for Miracle Sims, who's the actress from Atlanta who actually decided to commit to the lead role. Wow. And because I would have been in a circle for 10 years, just like in this giant, watching hundreds of people just drop out and not being able, because it was out of the comfort zone of like a lot of talent. And so that's what happened. For the supporting actress role, we did a shoot that was really hard. It was cold, and it was in March. It was a very cold night, and it was a very difficult scene to shoot. And so she dropped out after that, and I actually cried. Wow. I actually cried, and I remember the lead actress was trying to pray for me. I was just devastated. It's like I just felt it was just like one of those hard, like low moments that you have. I've had several low moments, but that was just like a low moment. That did make me cry. And I did have to recast and start over, but at least it wasn't as bad as like 50% of the film. Yeah. I probably would have to go to a hospital after that. No, just like, I'm very serious.
No, and me too. It's amazing because, and this is why I love having people like yourself on this show to really let the audience know what really comes with the territory. Yeah. Because Hollywood make it seem like, oh, it's so euphoric in the way that they talk about it. Like everything is lovely, everything is fine. And then when you go out and try to do it, and the first, piece of opposition, you're like, oh my gosh, what am I doing wrong? And you're not. you realize, later it's part of the process.
Mhm.
And then you start hearing crazier stories. But go ahead.
So that's a good point that you brought up. I personally, I really feel like there's so much difference between independent and Hollywood. Like I don't feel like this is the same thing at all. I feel like there's big money in Hollywood, and these productions have like a lot of support in their own marketing, and like I feel like in independent productions, that's really where you build character, because you do everything yourself, and it's trial and error, and so many things go wrong, and you have to bring it to the finish line by yourself with like no money, and then I think a lot of independents dream of making it into Hollywood. So I think a lot of people probably did start out with independence and then broken into Hollywood. But yeah, I think they're separate worlds. Yeah.
No, I agree. I often bring that analogy up because a lot of people do get inspired by some of the films that come through the way of Hollywood, and then they go try it. And you're right, they have the whole system in place. And but you have to create your own system, like you said, to bring it to the finish line. And for some, it's very disheartening.
You know, I'm really grateful for platforms like Tubi, which is so immense for independent films, and I'm grateful for Tubi audiences. And I can understand why people gravitate towards Tubi, because, you know, maybe they want something different than studio produced content that's like on Netflix. You know, I can definitely see how somebody would want, you know, a little bit of both worlds, like Hollywood stuff that's on Netflix versus like the indie, gritty, small scale, edgy type of stuff that's on Tubi. So that just came to my mind when we're talking about independent versus Hollywood, which are very separate worlds.
Yes. And also, too, I want to talk to you about your tribe of support. You know, I've been talking with talent, and they would tell me some, you know, would have that supportive family right by their side all the way. And some told me, no, nobody believed in me, but I had to create the courage to move forward. What was it like for you and your family and those around you?
So my circle is very small, and like my biggest fan and my biggest support is definitely like my mother. She is the person that's like the most enthusiastic about what I am doing as a filmmaker, or has just always been behind me during my ambitions as a filmmaker. And she even loaned me a lot of money for this feature film. And I had a false start in Las Vegas. There's so many false starts that just start coming to mind. So she loaned me money, and it all got blown in Las Vegas during a false start on this feature film. And I had to start all over on the East Coast. And finally, 2 years later, I finally wrapped it. So besides Terra, I also had like 2 college friends that like were always like, you know, really into what I was doing when I was making short films, and they were kind of like my fans. So besides those 2 and like my mother, I really didn't have any support. Like I just really kept myself going. And to this day, I have like a mother and I have an aunt that, like, you know, if I have something, I'll share it with them. Like I shared my the Clubhouse interview with my mom yesterday. So she, you know, those are like the only 2 people that I'll like share stuff with. Like, hey mom, I'm here. I'm featuring here, whatever. Yeah. And she's really into it. Yeah, she's like my fan.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. So, what's next for you? I know we kind of talked about that a little bit at the beginning. Where do you see yourself going next?
I feel like I definitely see myself being able to be attached to a production that has financing. Everything I've done thus far has been self-financed. And the whole motivation for me is just to prove that I'm good enough to prove to, like, you know, other people that I'm good enough to be attached as a director for a production that already has backing and already has this financing. And I feel like I kind of have proved that with this feature, just with like the response that I've gotten and how well it did on Tubi. And I'm just so excited to be at the point where I can actually be packaged as a director for another production. It's really full circle to me, and it just really made the whole 2 years of hard work and slaving and dragging suitcases from Atlantic City to New York City. There's just so many stories. It just makes it all worth it for me. That's why I'm saying, like, it's really like the most gratifying thing that I've ever done.
That is amazing. Well, we'll be right back after these messages. You'll listen to Talk with Terra, presented by African American Women in Cinema, right here on Rudy Radio.
Hi, I'm Dan O'Shea, Executive Director for Maureen's Haven Homeless Outreach. It is our mission to support the homeless in our community. We provide an emergency winter shelter program, a day center, and support services to help the homeless in our community. With your help, we can continue to provide services so critically needed to the homeless in our community. Please visit www.maurinshaven.org or call us at 631-727-683.
Welcome back to Talk with Terra. I am Terra Renee from African American Woman in Cinema, and today we have the fabulous, also Osaretin with me today. I tell you, what a treat. I'm getting a lot out of it. I know the audience, you're getting a lot out of it as well. Before we went to break, we definitely talked about false starts and who the support team is and how important that is to have along this type of journey, because it requires so much, requires just mental, psychological, even physical energy. I mean, Osaretin, you know, do you think if a filmmaker had no support, meaning, you know, no cheerleaders, do you think that they can do it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely possible. I almost had like no cheerleader. I really feel like the only cheerleader I had on this film probably was my mom. Like, I would tell my mom, I really need to make this feature. Like, I just really want to progress as a director, and the whole thing looks so crazy, but she was always like backing me and encouraging me. And I can't really think of anybody that did that for me besides my mom. And I think like your love for the art form will really like take you through, because I'm fully just deeply in love with this art form ever since I was a teenage girl, and it really took me to the finish line through the really difficult and low moments of making a low budget indie. And so it's definitely possible, like if you don't have any cheerleaders, like if you have the willpower and if you have a deep love for something that you're doing, it's very, very possible, because that's exactly what I did.
That is great. Any filmmakers that are out there that you are inspired by?
I would have to say, so Ava DuVernay, Ava DuVernay, is a woman I definitely have a lot of admiration for. What I admire about Ava, Miss Ava, and I know so many people out there have the same type of admiration for her, is I feel like she's tackled some very difficult and very hard to confront like issues, and I've been educated and moved by some of her work. Like I think it's They Can Hear Us. I hope I'm titling it correctly. They Can Hear Us. That was very eye-opening for me to be educated on the injustice of the whole Central Park Five, especially in the middle of the unrest that we went through in 2020.
Yes.
And also the 13th Amendment. I think that's the title of her documentary. So anyone that can tackle just difficult and uncomfortable topics is somebody that like deserves our respect. And Miss DuVernay is definitely a woman like that, and so I definitely admire her.
That's good. What about acting? Any actresses or actors inspire you in their work?
So for the longest time, definitely Natalie Portman is like my favorite actress, just because she's so authentic, so convincing, and just so fully into a role. Like, it's like there's no separation between, it's like she doesn't have any reservations. Like some actors that are like not like a veteran in their craft, you can tell that there's a reservation. They're not like fully into it. It's like there's a hesitance, and you can't, like, if you want to be good, you can't be hesitant. You have to be fully into it and be vulnerable. And so that's something I really admire Natalie Portman for. I newly discovered like my favorite actor, like Timothy Chalamet. He's French American. He's a young French American. He's in the new movie Dune, which is, I don't know, they've been advertising that a lot. I see that all over Google. I'm sure you've heard about the movie Dune. I think it came out last month. So he's in that, and I like him because I think he's shown a lot of versatility. He's chosen some controversial, difficult roles, and he's young, and I just think he's just shown different layers as an actor, so that's why I like him as an actor.
Now that's good. That's good. Wow, that's good. Okay.
Yeah, so those are my favorites.
Excellent. Did you have do you have an all-time favorite film that you can watch over and over again?
Yeah, so I always say Titanic, because it's epic and it's grand. It's such an adventure, and it's a 3-hour masterpiece. I feel like once you start reaching the 3-hour mark, that's difficult, and if you can do that successfully, then that's just amazing, because it's hard to keep the pacing and the attention span for 3 hours. I just like Titanic because it's just really epic and grand, and just my all-time favorite.
That is wonderful. Well, that's good. That's good. Well, we're entering to a season of thanks, and you can share with us one or two things that you are thankful and grateful for.
So definitely being able to wrap this feature that I did, and the response that it's gotten, and the opportunity that it can give me, I'm super, super grateful for that. And I'm also grateful for my mom to have been on this journey with her, and being able to bring some pride for her, that, like, you know, I'm in a different place after her sacrifice and her encouragement. So she's definitely somebody that I'm grateful for. So that's what I'm thankful for this season.
That's beautiful. And could you tell the audience, how can we follow you and support what you do? Can you give us some of your social media details?
So Instagram is my number one, as that's the best place to connect with me. So my Instagram is @director.omo. So that's the best way to connect with me. And I also have an email, info@stripfeature.com. So that would be the best email to connect with me.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. And what are some words of you've been giving this information to us all throughout your wonderful, insightful conversation with me, but I want to kind of focus in on it now. Some words of inspiration and encouragement to those who maybe sitting on the fence and have not galvanized a lot of courage to go forth and try, because they're looking at everything that they don't have. You know, the only thing they have is a story to tell. What could you say to that person or individuals in that boat?
Yeah, I feel like before you embark on pursuing your art form, I feel like it's advantageous if you know beforehand that there's gonna be low moments, there's gonna be depressing moments, so that you're not like caught off guard and like thinking that this is gonna be like a smooth road to like the immense success that you really want. I've had so many depressing and just like very like rock bottom low moments, and I've been able to pick myself up. Like you really have to like assess that moment and see that moment for what it is, and don't let that stop you, and just like don't be the one that throws in the towel. Just keep going and keep persevering.
Wow, that's awesome. I love it. I love it. What are some of the things, Osaretin, that you can share as like an avoidance, if you will, some things that you learned that you can share with some folks? Anything that, you know, any pitfalls, I can position it that way, that you've experienced that you can share and say, well, you know, you may want to be a little cautious about this, or you may want to be a little cautious about that.
Yeah. So I do have some controversy with people not fulfilling contracts that they signed, and like, you know, when that start happens, it can be very disrupting, you know, to the other party. So I feel like not underestimating the legal side of this business is really important. I think, you know, getting connected with somebody that can legally interpret or like be of legal assistance to you, it would probably be helpful in the long run. And I'm trying to connect myself with people that can provide myself legal help, as I do have some controversies that have to be sorted out legally, because people are just not the character that they say they are.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you brought that up, because unfortunately, it's a lot of those types in this industry. I don't know if it's because we are in the perception business, you know, where we have to create things, and it's amazing how folks can sometimes create something so grandiose, and then when it's time to deliver, it's nowhere near what they presented. Like, what? You know, and so those have been a lot of phone calls that I've been getting from talents and filmmakers, because they set the level of expectation so high, unfortunately, and they cannot fulfill that. So I always try to tell, and I certainly appreciate you bringing that part up. It's like, you got to do your homework. You got to just look at the entire picture and not be so, I don't want to use this in this word, but it's certainly a lack of a better term. Be so anxious, you know, to hurry up and get it done, because I truly believe in timing. You know, if I see storytellers as prophets of sorts, because when the story drops into them and then they express it out through pen and paper, and then now, you know, now the timing has to show up for that particular story to be expressed. Now, you had made mention, which I found very interesting, or Osaretin, about the Titanic. I was at a store and I picked up a film that talked about the Titanic, because I've been so obsessed over that whole scenario. And
Oh, wow, really? Wow.
Yeah, yeah. But did you know that it was actually Orson Welles? He was narrating like the behind the scenes of the Titanic. And he said that 10 years, I believe it was 10 years to the date, or it was 14 years to the date, that a writer wrote a novel about a luxury ship liner, that's what they called it then, who sailed on these seas, as they described it, under a very starry night, and the ship sank. And I was blown away by that type of revelation that Orson Welles was talking about. Here was a guy who wrote about the Titan. He called it the Titan. That's what he called it, a novel. So I have to actually, not too long hearing that, I'm going to actually go back and do some more research. And I'm wondering if I can get some sort of excerpts from that novel that was written during that time, and just look at the comparison based on his novel and the actual tragedy that took place, just to kind of see, what this writer saw that made him pen this novel. So I always encourage filmmakers, storytellers such as yourself, to really tell that story and put it out there, because it is certainly a need for it. Now, in saying that, this is kind of, well, in one sense, it's kind of backwards. Have you ever thought about writing a book?
Yeah, actually, it's interesting because there was a book that I put down to focus on pulling off this feature. I decided, and now that I'm finally done with this film, I would like at the right time go back and try to finish the book that I did want to write. I have love for a few different art forms. Actually, not really. So my main love is really for filmmaking, but because like I started like as a writer and then I gravitated towards filmmaking, so I do have love for writing. But yeah, that's so ironic that you asked me, because I did put a book down in order to focus on this feature that I finished.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Well, here's your clarion call. It's time to get that book written.
Yeah, I think so. I'm waiting for the right moment.
Awesome. Well, I don't know where the time went, but they're telling me that we have to go. And also, Terry, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your wonderful and insightful wisdom, and just incredibly able to articulate that to a place where I certainly got a deeper revelation. And thank you for sharing your awesome gift. And thank you, audience, so much for listening and to Talk with Terra. I am Terra Renee from African American Women in Cinema organization. You can visit us online at www.aawic.org. You can also follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Talk with Terra is made possible by Rude Rangers Entertainment. Our creative director is Rudy J. Breedy. Please don't forget to like and share this episode with as many people as possible. We sincerely appreciate you joining us today and wish you continued peace, blessings, and prosperity. We look forward to seeing you at the next episode.